So, should I make a ukulele version of my Archtop guitar design? I mean, if you have to ask, of course you should. Like, totally 100%, dude. Absolutely. Bravo. Do it! Do it now! Do we think that's a yes? Oh no, I'm Chris. Welcome to King Bespoke Creations. The public have spoken. If you want to have your say on future builds, make sure you subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram as well. I'll put some links in the description downstairs. And then you can have your say on any future stuff. So, have you ever seen an Archtop ukulele before? I haven't. I've seen a few electric guitar builds that are ukulele sized, but generally they all look kind of the same, don't they? So I thought to do something a little bit different, because I like doing things a little bit different. We could make one that looks like this, that's got all these nice curves and bows, beautiful lines, out of some different materials, but generally to look like that, but a lot smaller. So the first thing I did was take a photograph of the guitar, stick it on the laser machine software and scribe out a small version of this. So this is exactly the same shape as this, but smaller. It's of the right dimensions. But there was a flaw in my plan. And the flaw in my fantastic plan is that when you scale the body down for a ukulele, the neck doesn't scale down at the same size. So we have this kind of neck section here that's too narrow for the neck. So once I drew around the shape of this, well, realistically, we can just throw this away. So now we're left with the start of all of my guitars. A big long sheet of paper, everything drawn out to the correct scale, the correct sizes, measurements and everything. So here we are, 16-inch scale length from nut to bridge marked off with the same crown style bridge that I have on the acoustic guitar as well. Same F-holes that aren't F-holes, but they're my design, so I'm going to stick those in. This is going to need a bit of tweaking over here. I'm not 100% happy with this at the moment, so that's still up for a little bit of debate and a little bit of redesign. But that is generally what we've got. Now I've also done the side section on here as well to know how long the neck actually needs to be. Which, look at that, 37 centimeters from tip of headstock right the way through to base of neck. It's tiny! And then the body section is going to be about 3 inches thick, so that there's plenty of depth inside it to try and make sure it's actually going to have some volume coming out of it. So the original guitar is made out of church pew. That's what that body wood is. 150-year-old church pew. Absolutely stunning. And then the side section that makes it a little bit wider, and the neck as well, that's all a wood called Iroko. Iroko is a kind of teak. It's an African teak, as it's quite often called. Often used in shipbuilding because it's super stable, doesn't rot, is impervious to mites and insect stuff, and brilliant wood. But if you ever use Iroko, big warning, if you're creating lots of dust with it, as soon as you're finished, go and have a shower and wash all of your clothes, because it irritates the skin like nothing else. Ask me how I know. But on this build, we're going to have some maple for the neck and for the centre band around the body as well, that to give it that extra thickness. And then the front and back of the body is made out of this wood. This is, well, do you know what? I don't even know what this is. It's definitely from the mahogany family. It isn't actual proper mahogany. It's not quite heavy enough for that. But it's off a friend of mine's house. It was an old staircase, the railings off a staircase, and I've got quite a bit of this. So I thought it'd be quite interesting to use it. We need to do some gluing up. That is not a big enough chunk of wood to make the neck out of. More than long enough, but not thick enough. Now we could just go slapping 2 pieces of wood together, glue them up, and that'll do. But there's little things that you can do to get stronger sections out of a cheaper cut of wood. Now, usually when you buy a piece of wood that's long like this, the wood grain runs flat along, and that would be flat sawn wood. Now you may or may not know that quarter sawn wood is stronger, where the grain goes that way down. So what are we going to do to make this wood stronger as we glue it together? We're simply going to turn it that way around so that that first section where the bulk of the neck is going to be quarter sawn wood. And if we do it with both sections, we can glue that together. So the fretboard will be on here. We've got quarter sawn wood for the bulk of where the neck's going to be. And that little V shape there might just create some really nice patterns as we run down in between and cut that excess out. Cool. So with that quarter sawn maple and the glue line running up the centre of it, giving it even extra strength, on this tiny little neck that we need for the ukulele, this ain't going to need a truss rod. Plus, if you try to find a truss rod that's small enough to fit, you might struggle a little bit there. So I'm going to make sure that we actually glue the correct faces together by doing that. Now I'm sure you don't need me to show you how to glue up two pieces of wood. It's not particularly difficult. Whether you use a glue spreader or whether you use your finger is entirely up to you. Some people super freak out when I start doing this, but that is entirely up to you whether you want to do that or not. Now, a couple of tips for gluing stuff together. I know you've done this before, but a couple of tips. Always give it a bit of a shake side to side, because that starts getting some capillary action in there. And your first gluing clamps don't want to be squeezing it together. Your first gluing clamps want to stop it from slipping. So we're going to go in sideways like this, and that's going to hold both of those pieces together. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. There we go. To know that top and bottom it's not moving, and it's not sliding that way, and it's not moving around. It is absolutely fixed. Then we can go in and clamp together with as many clamps as you can get. The more clamps you can put on, the more even that pressure is going to be. Even though that pressure doesn't actually need to be particularly hard. We'll point that out. A lot of people put too much pressure on their glue joints and end up squeezing out all of the glue, literally all of the glue, and you end up with what's called a dry joint. And then it might even come apart again, which is no use to anyone, is it? I'll just a damp towel to scrape off the excess and leave that to set. And with the neck glued up, we can then move on to the body. Right, so here we are. We've got 4 pieces that we're going to stick together, 2 like that and another 2 like that, which becomes the top of the guitar and the bottom of the guitar. Now then, apart from the fact that that isn't a perfect joint to begin with, because this is a pre-finished wood, it's absolutely essential that we skim off all of that surface to make sure we're down to bare wood. Otherwise, your wood glue simply won't work. And then use exactly the same tricks to glue up these bigger pieces for the body. Pinching the ends together first to know that they're going to sit flush with each other, and then we can clamp them height-wise. So while they're drying, I can then make a template for those bodies, because don't forget we're going to have 3 body sections that all need to be cut out the same. This isn't just me drawing round and cutting one body shape out like an electric guitar. So I am actually going to make a template for this, and we know the previous one doesn't work, so we've got to make a new one. Now again, this is an area where a lot of people freak out at me doing this, because I'm actually just going to cut up that paper drawing that I've done. Yes, it's the only one I have, but that doesn't matter. Notice I still have my side drawing with all the measurements on that I need. They're all still there. And then we just need to Pritt stick this onto some stuff. good straight off the bandsaw. There's a few places just round here where the curves could be a little bit smoother, so we'll just go at it with a couple of files just to make sure when I run round with a template I'm actually going to get the shape I want. And on the internal corners, just use a round file. Now, top tip, if you do use chipboard to make templates or anything else that you're going to do, I always like to seal it just with a I like to seal it with just a thin layer of wood glue, and it just means then if it gets damp, it's not going to freak out, spread, splinter, grow and misshape everything, and then you'd have to make another one. So it just needs a thin layer over the top, so it's not affecting the shape, it's not going to create any lumps or anything like that, but it will just create a waterproof barrier. Lovely. So come back next week where we just glue it all together and have a ukulele, or possibly a few pieces in between that. In the meantime, check out this playlist of this build because you'll love it if you haven't seen it already, and hey, it was a while ago so you could always watch it again. Until next time, keep yourself safe, sharpen your tools, and I'll see you soon. God bless.